Hello, everybody, and welcome to my very first Soul Talk. I'm so happy this is a new program within my show, and I'm so happy to getting started introducing wonderful people to you, to my audience, and having wonderful, intuitively led conversations. That's why it's called a Soul Talk. And my special guest today is Aruna MD, is a board certified in holistic medicine and adult geriatric psychiatry, founder of Trinergy Health Psychiatry 2.0, offers a new pill-free paradigm in mental wellness by healing the whole mind, body, spirit system. Healing recovery is possible. Hello, Aruna. How are you?
Thank you, May. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, because you were my first. That is so exciting. I mean, the first one in this round.
We will get to an amazing start, and my wishes to you that this will be the first of many more amazing conversations for you to have.
Thank you so much. And I hope maybe we can meet up in a year or so, and then we're going to recap the whole time.
Yes. I would love that.
Yeah, we just already started talking a little bit about energies and everything. So maybe let's start with that part, and we'll get to your bio a little bit later. But you were going to say something.
We were talking about empaths and, how they struggle with, maintaining boundaries, especially with regard to their energies. They get sucked into becoming the caregivers, or, those were the themes that we were talking about. And I can tell you as a psychiatrist, unfortunately, many empaths end up with a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, or of course, depression and anxiety, and how this whole experience of being somebody empathetic. In fact, even one of the not a formal criteria, but informal criteria for somebody with borderline personality disorder is having a bleeding heart, and being too much in love with animals and the downtrodden. Those kind. That is the kind of the informal way that borderline personality disorder is picturized, and unfortunately, it draws in the empaths into this diagnostic category. And as in my previous life as a regular psychiatrist, handing out pills by the dozen every day, these patients would end up on antidepressant medications and mood stabilizer medication, sometimes antipsychotics, and they do struggle a lot with relationship issues, feeling unheard, not understood, and there's a lot of distress and sadness that patients that are empathetic go through. But then, as into my foray into holistic psychiatrist, there's a few things that I began to realize. One more thing, as a regular psychiatrist, there was this joke that when a woman, especially, when she is saying that she reacts to every medication that we use in psychiatry, oh, she's a borderline. We used to think, that was the unofficial, very crude joke as to how we would reduce people and their experiences to these diagnostic labels. Now, I'm a renegade psychiatrist, or you'll hear all the dirty secrets. I don't know whether other psychiatrists will agree with me. If they're being honest with themselves, they will. But then, as I forayed into holistic medicine and holistic psychiatry, I began to see, number one, that these people were actually extremely sensitive beings, and they were not only psychologically sensitive, but they were also physiologically sensitive. Because of a genetic predisposition called methylation gene polymorphisms, the main one is MTHFR gene, and the joke on that is we call it the mother effer gene. Sorry for being for swearing on your podcast, but it's a very apt acronym. MTHFR is one of the main methylation genes that is associated with detoxification abnormalities with almost all mental illnesses, from autism to addiction and depression and anxiety, everything in between. It's also associated with almost all autoimmune diseases. It's associated with almost all cancers, IBS, and asthma, allergies, And there's a reason for that. It's a very important gene that regulates a number of very important functions in the body.
Mm.
And I began to see that these people that were complaining of all these side effects, oh no, I react to everything. They were not being borderline. They were not being borderline. They were actually telling the truth that they indeed are physiologically reacting badly to these chemicals that we are shoving down their throat, literally.
Yeah.
And then my understanding about people that are empathetic really changed to, I call them either the canaries in a coal mine or hermit crabs. You know how hermit crabs, they're soft shell, they don't have a shell. So their soft body is exposed to the ravages of nature. And so they're forever trying to find a shell to protect them. And that's it. So when I work, I mean, and, to some extent, I'm an empath as well, but I can be an angry empath. I mean, I got into psychiatry because of my empathetic nature. And I also have the same MTHFR gene. And I struggled with a lot of diseases in the past, which I don't. I mean, in my 20s, I was much more unhealthy and accumulating a number of diagnoses. Now in my late 40s, I have shed those diagnoses. And even though, I have the same genetic abnormality, genes do not cause diseases. They only control functions. And they do that by depending on nutrients and supporting factors or cofactors, as we call them. So what I've done is I've changed my diet, I've changed my lifestyle, I take certain supplements and I detox because I do need detoxification support. It's as simple as taking a harmless supplement that is going to enhance my cellular physiology without causing me any side effects. And through this, I've been able to shed the diagnosis of Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, PCOS, infertility, also ADD. I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder.
Nice.
And I was a control freak. I was highly anxious, trying to control everything. And it's not only a physiological journey, meaning it's not only about getting my body back into balance, but it was also a psychological journey and a spiritual journey. And you cannot leave one or the other out of this mix when we are on a quest to find ourselves, the meaning and purpose of our lives. So, as we were talking about empaths, I just wanted to share my experience with this being an empath, but also working with people. And I was the person that would react to everything. Like 1 week of taking ibuprofen after I had my first baby, my first daughter, I ended up with severe heartburn. Like it was, I was like, I react very quickly to all these things. 1 week I was prescribed Adderall for my ADD. I took it only for 1 week because I did not sleep at all. So I am sensitive to, thank God, because these chemicals, whether it is, paracetamol or ibuprofen or statins or aspirin, or all of the psychiatric medications, we are not deficient in these medications. And these chemicals, they do more harm than good. So just yesterday, I saw this study on aspirin. You know how aspirin, after a certain age, you have to take the low baby aspirin that will prevent you from having a heart attack. Guess what? The prevention of heart attack is very small compared to the risk of bleeding that can happen by taking a baby aspirin. So now all of a sudden, cardiologists are saying, no, this is a bad idea. We should not be taking baby aspirin. Not everyone. I mean, we should not giving it to everybody above a certain age. I think 55, or if you're above 55 or 60, they say, oh, it's time for you to take a baby aspirin. And only after going into holistic medicine that I began to question the wisdom behind that. But anyway, so, we have to, I mean, especially in medicine, there's so much of these dogma that gets passed down as the truth, the science, which it is not. So anyway.
Aruna, I can't stop smiling because I've been manifesting for the past couple of weeks and months that I'd like to talk to someone who can help me explain empaths from a more scientific viewpoint, and this is what you're doing right now. This is so incredible, and it resonated so much because especially the borderline, because I've met a couple of people who are borderline. I've never spoken to them in terms of you might be maybe look into if you're an empath, but I think that maybe a lot of empaths listening in can relate to that. Because sometimes you feel like there's so many people inside of you, because today you're having this opinion and 2 days later you're like on the opposite side, like probably for the US, you're Republican and then you're a Democrat the next day. So it's sort of, it keeps
No,
shifting.
it's happening the other way. You're Democrat before, and now you're becoming a Republican.
Or that, yeah,
That's a joke.
exactly. So you're completely confused
No.
with yourself.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
trust yourself with that anymore, with what you're feeling and everything. And this is so important. And I love
Chaos.
that with people like you, the how do you call is it school in Germany? They call it school medicine, the normal scientific medicine, not the normal, but the old
The
mainstream medicine.
mainstream medicine. Yeah. The mainstream medicine and psychiatry. No, I mean, I will tell you, as a psychiatrist, I've come to dislike the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. The borderline, and again, in most of empaths' journey, we do start off having experienced early life trauma. Of basically what that chaos, what you're describing, not knowing yourself and feeling very confused, all of that happens because we did not receive we may have received attachment, but we did not receive the ability to become authentic sovereign beings. So basically and again, my intention is not to blame parents about this, because they themselves were probably having the same struggles, because there's generational trauma. It gets passed down until somebody decides, okay, I'm going to fix this and I'm going to stop this line of trauma. And that was me, at least for my children, that was me. I mean, I've had my own epiphanies as a parent. So that's why I always play the devil's advocate for parents, because I know I made a lot of mistakes with them, especially when they were younger. My narcissistic ego, or my self-centered ego, because of my own early life experiences where my ego and identity and authenticity was not allowed to grow and flourish, I was repeating the same patterns. But then when you don't develop that authenticity and the ability to be a sovereign being, you don't know yourself.
Yeah.
And so as adults, we are half-baked cookies, really. That's what we are. We are half-baked cookies. And yes, we become cuckoo from time to time. So, some things that, one day we are cool with it. And it's a classical idealization and devaluing. One day we are so in love with one person, and a few days later, we hate that person completely from the bottom of our heart. But again, it's not borderline personality. It is not that you are hardwired that way. And I will tell you, when I was in my 20s in my psychiatric residency, there was another, he's a psychiatrist too now, but this is back in India. I rejected his romantic advances, and he suddenly started to diagnose me as being borderline. I was like, really? And I mean, I didn't have the guts to say anything much, but now I'm like, oh, you were having romantic ideas towards me, so you were idealizing me, and then when I reject you, now you're calling me borderline. That is classic borderline behavior itself, right? Going from so what I'm saying is that these diagnostic labels that exist in the medical field, in the psychiatry field, they don't have much validity, because they are only looking at the surface level symptoms. Oh, you're idealizing and devaluing. Oh, you bring so much of chaos. Your moods are always up and down. You must be borderline. The question to ask is why? And it comes from lack of self-worth, lack of idea of self, and lack of authenticity. Yeah. Because that child growing up had to adapt to the emotional atmosphere that she or he was growing up in. They could not express their own ideas, their own emotions, and be who they really were. And the culture reinforces that. I mean, so much of pressure on us parents to have the perfect child, right? And if our child is, God forbid, not perfect in the way that we want them to be, then we try to mold them. And I used to think that my job was to mold the child into a certain way. It's only through all this journey I've learned that no, my job is to provide a safe, loving, healthy environment and allow my child to explore and develop their own authenticity. So I'm learning to do that now with my children. We'll see.
I love that. But to bring in a little bit our cultural mixes by DNA and biography, I always thought that, because I know how I was brought up, and also without blaming anything, I know they were doing their best at their time, but the way I was brought up, I always thought that because of my Asian background, like you have to be this way, and it was very, like even more so because sometimes people think, yeah, the Germans are very, strict and squared and everything. But in my case, I always thought the Asian side was even worse that way.
Oh yeah,
But
the tiger mom, tiger dad from China.
exactly, exactly. And this is not, I don't want to, I'm not judging any culture. This is just,
Yes.
especially because with me growing up and now in the last years also working a lot with Germans, I've noticed there's no difference in the cultures in that way,
Oh yeah.
because there's
Yes.
the Asian side might have done it this way, but the German side, yes, they have a different kind of freedom, but there's also still a lot of trauma that needs to be healed. I mean, they just had 80 years ago, there was the last war here. We still have survivors from that time, and there's still this trauma that needs to be, processed in the
Collective
whole.
guilt. Yes.
Exactly, and everywhere. I mean, and this is just Germany. Let's not even talk about all the other countries that are still struggling with all kinds of other unhealed. So I think it's a worldwide thing for us to heal that.
Yeah.
And
And I think that is the human condition. I think this
yeah,
is the hero's
thank you.
journey that each
Yeah,
one of us individually have to be on.
yeah,
This is the evolution of individual consciousness that is necessary. So it's not going to happen on a global scale until it is happening at the individual level.
yeah.
And again, yes, I agree with you. I mean, India went through. I was born and raised in India. I was born in the 70s, and so post-colonial India, we were very much aware of our recent history of British colonialism, the atrocities that we faced. I know everybody's talking. I mean, yes, everybody talks about the Nazis and the killing of the Jews. The British were just as culpable. I mean, they were responsible for Winston Churchill engineered a famine during World War II. He was taking away the grains that were being grown in India to supply the soldiers that were fighting in the World War II. He didn't have a right to do that. That was not our war, but just because they were our overlords. And because of that, it was an engineered famine. 4 million Indians died from famine. Nobody talks about it. And God knows, I mean, this is the official figures, but the 4 million, 6 million, 4 million Indians, 6 million Jews, to me, that's, it's comparable. And this is only in one instance. And there were so many other atrocities where they would indiscriminately, there's another tragedy that happened in 1941, which was they basically, it was a peaceful gathering of people that had come out to listen to a freedom fighter speak. Men, women, and children were gathered in this in open air stadium, which had walls and an entryway. So the British police came, they locked up the door, and they came in with rifles and shot down every single person in that auditorium. It's simply just, it was a mass murder. So yeah, I mean, we all carry the legacy of the trauma. Every culture does, but and humanity, when it behaves like that, it is because of their disconnection from their self. You know how you were talking about source.
Yes.
We are all one. We come from the same source of singularity. And, quantum physics is the way to go to think about this. Yeah. There is the unified field. It's the universal energy. We may call it God, or we may just call it unified field as in quantum physics. But that we all come from that same energy. We are, in Sanskrit, the way it is, in Ayurveda, the way it is described is the unified field is the ocean, and each individual soul is the wave that's rising above, and it seems like the wave is going away from the ocean, but ultimately it goes back to the source. And our journey in life is to do this circular journey back to the source. And yeah,
sorry,
and
that's the name of the podcast, Surf Your Energy Wave.
Yes. that's amazing convergence there. So it is this journey of the individual soul to finding its own self, its own source, that you are actually nothing but the source. So
thank you so much for sharing this, especially because for me, I actually in my past speaking things that I was doing, I was also asked by people like if the universe, because I strongly believe in the whole the universe reflecting our inside out, right? So whatever
Oh, yeah.
we
The
emanate.
microcosm reflects the macrocosm. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. The law of attraction, basically,
Yes.
and they were asking me, like, why do we still have wars if we're all working, on peace? And I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, what people overlook a lot of the times is how much war are you having with yourself?
Within. Yes.
I don't want to do this, I can't do this. What are people going to think of, like this way with whatever we want to do, or being afraid, like, if I do this, are people going to like me anymore? Or I'm not sure who I am. So how am, like, I don't like me
That's the
being this way.
authenticity piece. Yeah, that is exactly
Exactly.
being authentic, being able to be comforted with the knowledge that the way you are, your ideas, the good, bad, and the ugly about you, we first have to accept that for ourselves. We should not reject any aspect of ourselves. I mean, like I said, I used to, I mean, like there was a period of at least 1 to 2 years where I would constantly apologize to my children because I would have flashbacks of how I behaved with them. And this was after my own epiphany of my own trauma and as my spiritual evolution happened, I knew I had to heal myself. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I really, really did not respond to my children's needs. And I don't think, I was not quote unquote a bad mom, but I was not the mom that they needed either. So there was a time until my children had said, okay, enough with the apologies. We get it that you were so, but that part of me, I don't feel guilty about that because that was me in evolution. But I had to acknowledge, I mean, the reason I was asking so much for their forgiveness was, again, that was also not the most appropriate thing to do because now it was on them to make me feel better. And when I kind of understood that subtle aspect of it, I was like, no, I need to forgive myself. I have to have that compassion for myself. And it's only when you accept and bring in all these parts of us that we have rejected, then we are able to then face up to the world with a strong voice, a strong heart, and dare to be who we are.
Yeah.
So that's
take that in, everybody. Take a breather and really breathe that in, to be your authentic self and just dare to be yourself. I think that's so important, especially for empaths, because we don't like ourselves when we're changing opinions, when we're changing energies. We don't trust ourselves. So for today, as the one thing, the one last thing to take away from today, to really, and hold on, I forgot to ask you, see, we need to make a second one. But for you, as a takeaway, to really see what can you do to be comfortable with yourself. What can you do? Take this question with yourself for today. What can you do to accept yourself the way you are? And to see who you want to be, to dare yourself to be this person more and more. And yes, it also means, and this is because I've actually had clients with that trouble, accepting your own sensibility. It's okay that you are sensitive to energies. It's okay that you're sensitive to all of those things. It's okay for that. And just to take that with you for the future.
Yes. And the first step starts with shedding our unconsciousness. So really self-awareness. So, I am a practicing psychiatrist. I do mental health recovery all over the world, actually. I have an online program as well. And the first step, I believe, is healing the body, because without a healthy body, you cannot do all of this fancy mental, psychological, emotional stuff. It just, I give the example, if a kid is hungry, you cannot teach him math, right? You have to make sure that the kid is well fed, then all the, the brain will start to function. It's the same thing even for this kind of intense self-growth and spiritual evolution work. We need to have healthy bodies that is nutritionally complete, that is in a state of appropriate detoxification. And every organ system should function optimally. And that doesn't take long. Yes, in today's world, chronic disease, gut issues, gut brain, everybody's talking about that. There is a lot of, that is all true. But to your listeners, know that in my practice, within 2 to 3 weeks, okay, let's say within 3 to 4 weeks, much of their physical symptoms go away because of it doesn't take long for our bodies to heal. That's why the first month, my program is a 6-month program. The first month, we're focusing on healing the body. The second month is when we take the brakes off and we are going head first into the self-awareness, consciousness, and authenticity and self-worth creation. And that continues for the next several months. And then we do a detoxification to bring it all in together. And this is this. I just wanted to kind of let it out there that self-awareness is very important. We need to become conscious of our body from the inside out and also of our thoughts. And this is the pathway to reclaiming ourselves. So when you brought up, the wars and, why do people do that? That's a state of deep unconsciousness, deep disconnection from your own self.
Yeah. Because it's destroying yourself. It's like having an autoimmune problem.
Yes, it is. And yeah. And I mean, which is why all these CEOs, they have heart attacks, and the people like, the big, let's say the CEOs of these war machine companies, the people that make guns and all of that. Are they truly happy? Are they truly at home with themselves? You cannot be making weapons of destruction and be in alignment with yourself. I don't think so. We do know that many of these CEOs, they struggle with, at the very least, heartburn and, relationship. They have 3-4 divorces, children are not talking to them. That's the stereotypical, very successful, very, at the top of the line CEO kind of a picture that we have. And that does indicate the deep disconnection with oneself, which allows them to make these kinds of decisions that have, unfortunately, a very negative impact on the rest of the world.
Yeah. But thankfully, a lot of change is happening because we're living in the most transformative times right now. And it's so incredible. Yes. And I also love that you said, just to go back a little bit with the whole body, that you really start with your body. So many empaths are really sensitive to foods and to any sorts of, like, I don't know how many different kinds of diets I've already tried until I found the one where I feel really comfortable with myself, with the energies, and really, how do you say, not with sufficient nutrients for myself or my body. And well, I think it's
I don't know how it is. I don't know how it is in Germany, but in the US, our food system is extremely corrupted. So, I eat organic as much as possible. We do eat out, as a family with, teenage kids. It's difficult to completely be only at home. And frankly, let me not blame them. I like some of the foods that we get from restaurants. But even there, the self-awareness helps me to kind of keep that in check. Especially in the US, it is a must to take certain supplements, because our food today, even if you're eating organic and clean, and I make food most of the times at home, despite that, our food is lacking in nutrients because of the way the soils are being depleted with glyphosate, the pesticides and the herbicides that they use. And our soils are also depleted of the microbiome, which is very essential to not only capture the nitrogen from the atmosphere and put it into the soil, but it also helps to add certain compounds like humic acid and fulvic acid, which are excellent binding agents and detoxification agents. So we are losing out on all of these things. So it unfortunately becomes necessary to take certain supplements. But to your point, it's not only about eliminating and finding what food is agreeing, because if you're eating a wholesome, organic, clean diet, we should be able to digest more foods. So it indicates when people have, going back to the analogy of the hermit crab, you need a shell on the outside and you need a kind of like a shell for your gut lining as well. Really. So because your gut lining, it's a single cell layer, like the skin is protecting you on the outside, the gut lining from the mouth, the mucous membrane that's starting from our lips all the way down to our anus, is also kind of the barrier between the true interior, which is our body, which is made up of the blood vessels and the muscles and the tissues, and the outside world. Because we put everything, what we are eating is really, we're taking a slice of Mother Earth and putting it into our bodies. So as a hermit crab, as empaths, we need shells on the outside to protect us, but we also need that strong barrier or a shell to protect our gut lining as well. And again, in our program, there are certain ways to do that. We need a ketogenic diet. We need certain supplements to restore that gut lining, which again does not take long, because the intestinal lining is replaced every 3 to 4 weeks. So you start eliminating foods that are bad for you, and do that for 3 to 4 weeks. And during that time, you take the nutrients that is going to rebuild your gut lining. You will see coming out of that you're able to better tolerate the foods that you were not able to eat before. So, yeah.
I love that so much, because I think one of the scariest things about certain diets that I used to have was that you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to eat that, and so it sort of feels like someone is forbidding you to have fun in life. And yes. But what I found out with through my own food journey, to put it this way, was at one point, if generally it's like an 80-20% probably, but I couldn't, yes. Don't pin me on the percentage, but basically most of the time I am aware what I'm eating. I look out for it to be good stuff for my body. But if sometimes I allow myself to eat something that I'm not supposed to have, but it's sometimes, so I'm still having it, I'm enjoying it for myself, and then the next day I'm back on track with everything else. And
that's what I do. 80-20 is what I recommend as well. Yes.
Right. And it's perfect. But now that you were talking about your program, that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about too. Let us know where can, if someone says, wow, Aruna, you really speak to me, you resonate with me, I want to work with you, where can everybody find you? I mean, we're going to put all the links in the description, but just for them to know, what's your program, because you already started, it's about food, and then you go into the personal stuff, walk them through your 6 months.
So I'm calling it the Psychiatry 2.0, and we've had a soft launch in my clinic here in Wisconsin. I'm in Northern United States. And we had a soft launch to opening it up to other states here in the Wisconsin. But the work that I do, I have set up ways to actually ship the supplements worldwide, and even the test kits and everything. So we are really hoping to reach as wide a population as possible. And the hard launch for this is going to be in a couple of weeks. So, follow me on Trinergy, at Trinergy Health is my Instagram handle. And the websites are trinergyhealth.com, and the new one is psychiatry2.com. I'll send you all the information. And the 6-month program, I'm calling it the Psychiatry 2.0, meaning that this is the new paradigm that we should all be following. And even though it says Psychiatry 2.0, you don't have to have a major psychiatric diagnosis. All empaths, if you're struggling with your energies, if you're struggling with fatigue, sleep issues, or relationship issues, all of that, this program is meant for those kinds of issues as well. And like I mentioned, it's a 6-month program. I'll be working individually as well as in group sessions. We are looking to create a community of people that are going to support each other and help each other in this process. My employee, I have an Ayurvedic physician who works in my practice. So there will be consultations with her as well. And together, in the first 4 to 6 weeks, we are going to be focusing on healing the gut lining and the body, which will continue throughout the 6-month program. And from the 2nd month onwards, our focus is really going to be on self-worth creation, on figuring out who you are, and also the authenticity and sovereign work that we all need to do. We are going to guide people through that process. Then in month 4, and also the supplements too. So we are going to be not only repairing the gut lining, we are going to be re-inoculating your microbiome. And then in month 4, we are going to be doing an Ayurvedic detox that will pull out all kinds of toxins from your body.
And probably emotions too.
Yes, I was about to say that. I mean, we see that all the time in my practice, that emotional detox, and it's called Panchakarma, this Ayurvedic detox that we're offering. And this detox is actually considered a psycho-spiritual detox as well. So, and we take people through that detox, and then finally the last couple of months is about wrapping things up and teaching people how they can take this knowledge into their lives, because it's not just about a short period of time that you're doing all this, but it needs to continue. This has to become a way of life. And for your, I mean, as we were talking about the gut, the gut issues and the diet, I'll give your listeners a very simple trick. One is the sensitivities to food happens because one, the food is bad for us, but number two, our digestion is weak. So we are not making the digestive enzymes, and the acid production may be off. So in functional medicine, the instinct is to give digestive enzymes, but in my practice, what I've seen is that tends to increase inflammation, which we don't want. So a very easy way to stimulate your digestion is with these 3 herbs: cumin, coriander, and fennel. Make a tea with it. Or sometimes, like when I cheat, like when I eat out and I know that, it's not, I want my digestion to be extra strong. At the end of the meal, I'll eat a half a teaspoon or 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds. I simply chew on it. Mm-hmm. And that helps to reduce bloating. But the cumin, coriander, fennel tea will actually stimulate our digestive enzymes. So by giving digestive enzymes, I sometimes feel that we are taking over the function of our gut, which is to digest. And then we don't teach our gut how to digest it, the food. Mm-hmm. So we don't want that. But by taking some of these herbs like cumin, coriander, and fennel, very, very simple, right? Take half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of coriander, half a teaspoon of fennel, boil it in a quart of water, and then sip it warm to hot along with your meals. That will stimulate your digestion. By doing that, you're not taking over the function. You're not disempowering your own gut, but instead you're empowering your gut to heal these things, to digest the foods that you're eating. So very, very simple trick, and it works. Doing it consistently over a few weeks will restore your digestive function.
I'm loving it, because especially I love all 3 of them. Like, I'm a huge fan of cumin and coriander and fennel. So this is I'm going to go find, because my mom has all the herbs somewhere. I'm going to go find
them. But the seeds, you have to take the seeds.
Oh, yes. I'm going to go find the seeds then.
Yeah. I forgot to mention so much. You're very welcome. Yes. So
I think that's a very great idea, and I love how your program works, because it's really very, very holistic. It takes in all the aspects, and I think that's so important, especially from someone coming from mainstream. And this is why I'm inviting you again, so we can talk about your biography.
Yeah.
About how you became who you are today. But today it was different. It was something else wanted to be talked about. But what I love is that how someone coming from mainstream psychology, from mainstream medicine, has put it all together in one. Because for me, that's the best combination. Because I believe that mainstream medicine is on the right path. They have a lot of good things that we need, but when you bring in the holistic part, when you bring in the missing part of the whole mind, body, and soul, that's when it can thrive. So probably it becomes
yes, I have to, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to disagree. I think mainstream medicine has lost its soul, which is because, yes, we will meet again and we will talk. There's a lot of corruption. Again, it is because it is run by people that are disconnected from their own self. That's why, we see that. And the big reason, like I said, I had all those health issues, and I used to be so miserable, and I used to blame my parents for the genes they gave me, because everything is genetic, right?
Yeah.
So, but now I view those experiences as those struggles that I've had as actually valuable lessons that has taken me down the path that I'm here today. So nothing in life that happens to us, especially when we are open to receiving the lesson, is out of place. So I strongly believe that. So any of your listeners going through any troubles, know that this is only here to enhance your own authenticity, your sovereignty, and to make you step into being a more joyful self. So
I love this so much, because I was going to ask you, do you have a last words for our audience? But you just did it so perfectly. That was so great, Aruna. Thank you so much. This is so amazing. looking forward when we're gonna go
No,
live with this episode. So everyone listening in, if you want to, all the links are in the description for you guys, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation together.
me too, May. I mean, I can tell that we are so much in sync because like you said, we are not, this is nothing is scripted here, but the words that you're telling me is triggering the perfect neurons in my brain and it's just coming out. So I've loved it so much. Yeah,
Thank
this
you
has
so
been
much.
really,
Me too. And thank you everyone for listening in, and talk to you soon next time. And as always, serve your energy wave, baby. Bye.